Hey, it's Whitney from ecovegangal.com and welcome to the EVG Uncensored channel in which I share my thoughts on life. And today's video is based on a request that I received from someone named Federica. And the question is about dealing with envy. So since I'm not sure if this was a referral to dealing with our own envy towards other people or dealing with envy that people have towards us, I'm going to address both of it. So for me, I'm really fascinated with overcoming mental challenges. So emotional challenges is a better way to put it. And learning how to tap into what's really going on with us. So starting with how to deal with envy towards other people. I really feel like envy can be for a variety of reasons, but it's usually not something worth having, number one. It's kind of something that has been built into our culture for whatever reason, and I haven't given it too much thought. So usually I like to think about what does it mean historically or biologically. The purpose of envy seems kind of unnecessary because unless we envy something of somebody else's that we might be able to achieve or get, which in many cases could be the truth, if we envy something that we don't have and never will have, never can have, it can be so detrimental. So many women, for example, or actually, let's say people in general, envy the way somebody else looks. And sometimes it's really hard to change things. You know, it's easy to change our hair. It's a little bit harder to change our eye color. You could put in like a contact lens, but I don't know, can you change out your eyes permanently? Probably somehow. We know how to change our breast size. We know how to change our noses, our lips, all these different aspects of our body simply because we don't like the way that we look. So we're looking for a way to look like somebody else, really. It's crazy how commonplace that is. It's fascinating. And what is the biological reason for that? Well, really, if we want to change the way that we look, we feel insecure about it. We don't feel happy. We don't feel like we're good enough. We don't feel like we're valuable. So when you get to the root of that, changing the way you look to fit into some sort of mold you think you need to look in as is really a fascinating emotional state. Now, some people want to change their genders because they don't feel like they fit in their body. To me, that's a little different. I think ultimately it still comes down to something emotional that's going on, right? Why can't we look like one gender but identify with another without having to change? I mean, it's interesting how society it urges us to change completely so we can fit into some sort of mold. But ultimately, that's just a societal thing. It's not really necessary. And I think when it comes down to it too, is we all create our own reality. We created society. We create our lifestyle. We create everything around us. So we also have the ability to shift everything. And that to me is where it really comes down to figuring out what's going on inside and what's the reason for it. If you feel envious towards somebody else, think about what the root is. Why do you feel envy? And why does envy to me usually means that you wish you had what that person had. But do you really need what that person has? And what does that value have? So maybe this is a physical thing. Maybe somebody has a really cool car that you envy. Well, to me, the way to deal with that is to find a way to get that car yourself. If you really want that car, go get that car. I mean, it's funny how some people just think that they just can't have something. Actually, I really was thinking about this when I went to the LA car show a few weeks ago. And I was standing in, I think, the room with the Porsches. Our auto shows are fascinating. And I'm standing there and watching people go and ooh and ah over these cars. And how I just had this energy of people thinking, of course I couldn't read their minds, but just energetically felt like people were just in there wishing that they could have the car, but also thinking that they're never going to have it. And of course they're never going to have it if they think that they're not going to have it, right? We create our own reality. If you really want a Porsche, you will work towards having that Porsche and you will have it eventually. Every decisions that you make could have that Porsche in mind. You can save up money for a Porsche. It's really not that hard. And if you don't believe me, read Tony Robbins' new book about money. It's mind-blowing. And mind-blowing in the sense that it is mind-blowing in that a lot of the things he brings up are very logical, but we are just not trained to think them. And his whole purpose is retraining us so that things like getting a Porsche are not really that out of reach. I mean, they're all right within our reach. And that's why I was so fascinated at the auto show, is because all these beautiful cars are on display. And not only do the people at the auto show feel like they can't have them, but there's almost an energy at the car show where, oh, well, this is what exists, but you can't have this. So just come to the car show and look at it and enjoy it. Like, it's just an opportunity for you to interact with the car without having one. I mean, it has that kind of feel to it, in addition to the car show serving the purpose of making you want it so you will buy it, right? And so that whole mindset of this envy there, I feel like if it's a physical object, the envy you can use to your advantage and just say, I really want that. I'm going to go get that. I can have that. I can work towards that. It might not happen tomorrow, but perhaps in a year or two, I'll make that happen if it's a priority. We say that with changing our appearance many times, so if it's that simple to make a change in that sense, why can't we just make a change to get whatever we want? So to me, the positive to envy is that you could shift your mentality and realize how important something is when you start to envy it, as long as envy doesn't turn into something really negative. So I guess that's what I identify with. When I start to feel envious, I immediately check in with myself and I think, there's no point in being envious of this because I can have that too. I just have to work for it. And I think where envy becomes difficult is when it's something that we don't want to work for, that we wish that we could just have with ease. Like, wow, that person is just naturally in great shape. Well, most of us can work towards being in great shape ourselves, but it takes work and commitment. And if we're envious of someone for just being able to have something easily, well, that's just not the way it is for us. That doesn't mean we can't have it. Maybe we're envious of the ease of something. And to me, that's just a silly little thing, right? I mean, you can't change that. It's either easy or it isn't. Or you can choose to make it feel easy. That's another concept that a lot of us don't think that much about, is how something feels to us is also within our control. Anything can feel easy. We just have to choose to let it feel easy. It might be hard in the sense that it's taking a while and you have to put effort into it, but effort can still feel easy in a way, if that makes sense. I mean, there's so many examples of that. To me, I do definitely experience envy. Usually it's business related. And that's kind of my thought pattern, is I let myself feel it and then I immediately start to strategize how I can achieve that as well. And I've been experiencing that all throughout my career, and I've been able to reach all those different milestones. They've all just been there, and once I committed to it, I was able to get there too. And so that was great motivation. In terms of how people look, I choose to be satisfied with how I look. And if I want to be in great shape, I commit to working out. If I want to have the same haircut with somebody, I go get the same haircut. If I want to have the same clothes, I save up my money and go buy similar clothes. I mean, to me, those things are just so simple. There are, of course, things in life that are not as simple. So maybe we're envious of a relationship somebody has. I wish that I had that great of a relationship with my parents or my sister or my, boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever it may be. Those things take a lot more time. But what's the point in thinking about what you don't have? Focus on what you do have and what you can have. Use those examples as something that is possible. So much that we focus on is because we don't have it. And one of the most common things I hear in terms of advice is to be grateful for what we already have. Maybe that person is envious of you having something that they don't have, right? There's always a grass is always greener thing. But in terms of something like a relationship, you can still work towards that. You can still energetically attract the right people into your life. You can still change your relationships with existing people in your life. And I think that knowing that something is possible, That should be where the energy is placed. Thank that person. Wow, you have such an amazing relationship. You have inspired me to realize that I can have the same thing. You've shown me that it's possible. That is something to be grateful for, not envious of, in my opinion. And the same thing goes when people are envious of you. I guess if you have a direct experience with someone and you feel like it's a comfortable and appropriate thing to say, why not have this type of conversation with them? Why not remind that person that they have the ability to achieve everything that you have, and reminds them that you don't feel perfect and that there are things that you envy in that person, or that you maybe not envy, but you admire in that person, or that you wish that you had and you're working towards. I mean, maybe you can find some things that that person has that you would like as well, and maybe together you can work on it. I mean, imagine that collaboration. If every time we felt envious of someone that we just went to them and said, hey, I really am inspired by you. Could you be my mentor? Or would you mind sharing how you got here? Or I just want to let you know that you inspire me and I'm working towards that too. And thank you so much, wherever it's appropriate there. And if that isn't appropriate for you to say something, maybe it's like to an actor that you're envious of. Just think about the fact that you could have all of that too. That they started off somewhere just like you at one point. Now, coming back around to people being envious of you, I think it's also just kind of putting out the energy that it's okay. If you believe in energy, it's something that you can just easily think about and fill your whole body with emotionally, right? And other people can feel that, so you can kind of think good thoughts, and they're felt by other people. I really strongly believe that. So if you put on this energy of being loving and appreciative towards other people, they might feel less envious because they realize that you're a normal person and you're approachable and you're genuine and you've got all these things. It's easier to like someone, and it's harder to be envious of someone when you really kind of like enjoy them and feel relatable to them and you feel like you're on the same level with them. Maybe if you feel like it's appropriate, you can be more vulnerable and show that you're not perfect, right? I think that a lot of us look for imperfections in other people because we're envious of the idea that they might be perfect and we're not. And how good does it feel when you find out that someone is not perfect? One great example that immediately comes to mind is Jennifer Lawrence. I think that as an actress, many people like her simply because she's so down to earth. She's not afraid to embarrass herself, and when she does get embarrassed, she'll admit it. She makes a fool of herself, and she feels so real. She's a kind of a hard person to envy unless you're envious of her realness, right? But when I say she's hard to envy is because you just see her as this normal person who has become extremely successful. And she was just like you at one point, if you're feeling envious towards that, and knowing that through her actions is very comforting and assuring that you could get there too if you really wanted to. And I think that having that mentality of life being whatever you want to make of it, and being understanding and real, and knowing that we're really all equal in some way or another, it makes it so much more comforting. I think this idea of envy just comes down to competition and some odd desire that we have to be better than other people or perfect, or, we can't all have it at once. One person can only have it. And if we perpetuate that mentality of competition all the time, then it's doing everybody a disservice. But if we focus on unity and community and just bonding with people and helping one another, I feel like envy really starts to be washed away. I felt this many times. I've connected with people as friends that I once used to admire from a distance. And suddenly now they're a completely different person in my life. I still admire and I feel inspired by them and look up to them, but it's a different dynamic when you know them on a personal level. And imagine if we could have that more and more. So maybe you want to seek out a quality relationship with these people, or be vulnerable with them and let them know how you feel if there's someone that is reachable. And if not, you may want to focus in on opportunities to see somebody as their real selves. Like for me, that's part of the reason I created this channel. And I think people really value this channel is because I'm really honest and I'm not trying to put on a show. I'm just speaking my mind. And I think that shows a different side, right? And I'm comfortable with that. And I know that people appreciate it. So maybe there are ways to seek that out in other people. You know, you can watch behind the scenes videos. Like I just watched a behind the scenes documentary about Saturday Night Live. You can look it up on Hulu. And it was so fascinating to see all these actors and what they go through, what their lives are like, how much work they put in that I never realized, and how their personalities are so different off the show and just behind the scenes. And they just felt different to me. And I realized they're just real people and they worked their way up and they still feel like they could be kicked off the show and fired, and they probably feel like they're not good enough. And suddenly they just became more relatable. So finding these different ways to feel good about yourself, rise your self-esteem, see other people for who they are as for imperfect beings, and focus on the things that you can achieve to reaching your goals and to being part of a community so that it's all coming together. You know, you're helping other people up. You're not trying to be competitive. You're working towards your goals while still being in unison with other people around you. To me, that is the way to deal with envy. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this now. Have you ever had a specific situation where you felt envious of someone or someone was envious of you? And if so, how did you handle that? Did you handle it in a good way? Did you handle it in a bad way? If it was kind of a bad way, what did you learn from that experience, and how would you do it differently? And any other reflections you have based on what I've said today. I love hearing from you. Plus, if you have requests for content, if you want to know what my thoughts are on something, please let me know. Whether you want specific advice on how to handle a situation, or you just want to know what I've been through and what my perspective is, I would love to hear what you want to hear. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you found this video inspiring, enlightening, interesting, whatever it may be, please give it a thumbs up so I know, and leave me a comment, even if it's just a brief note there. I love it, and the more I see your names, the more connected I feel to you. If you haven't yet subscribed to this channel and you want to see more content like that, please do, and check out the other Eco Vegan Gal channels. The main Eco Vegan Gal channel has at least a new video every single week, especially on Saturdays where I do my live Q&A. So if you ever have questions about healthy, vegan, eco-friendly living, I am there to answer your questions. And I also have the other channel, What a Vegan Eats, EVG Venture, which is where I have all my business info, and Eco Vegan Dog. And I'm very committed right now to having new content on a regular basis on all of the channels. So there is so much for you there if you want more. Lastly, I would love to see you on social media. The links are down below in the description field. Please come connect with me there, because I feel so much more connected when I see you in multiple places. I hear from you, and I love following you and seeing what you're up to. So please do that. I look forward to it, and I will see you in the next video. There's going to be a new video on this channel every Sunday, and sometime during the week as well. Okay, that's it for tonight. Bye.